Welcome back on this Wednesday, the 24th, to Verbal Assault Livestream. I'm your host, Marquis Devereaux. We're a political podcast that takes viewpoints from the left and the right. As a host, I'm an independent. My co-host, Samuel Kachera, is also an independent. Of course, I lean a little left. He leans a little right. So we tend to go back and forth a bit, which is what we do on this show. For those of you that are listening to us, you're listening on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or Google Podcasts, or one of the other 11 anchor platforms. And if I'm not mistaken, we're also on SoundCloud now. Make sure you're subscribing so you're alerted to whenever we have new shows. For those of you that are watching, you're watching us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, as well as YouTube. Like, follow, subscribe. Okay, the topics are getting more and more and more relevant every single day. And Samuel, who submitted 3 subjects this week, even though I oversee creative, but he insisted on putting in 3 subjects. He said, why don't you just come up with another 2? But they were so hot this week. I had to say, you know what, my brother, we got the 5. But we are going to have an after show tonight for those of you who are our viewers. So please be sure to tune in. Well, let me correct myself. Our after show is taped on Sundays at 7. So be sure to tune in on Sundays at about 7 p.m. to be part of our after show. Now, today's subject, John Bolton book release. Why is the White House up in arms? Let me go ahead and introduce Cherokee Black, author, editor, Kirk Adair, historian, author, professor, Brian Parker, a parent. He works in hospitality, and he's not hospitable to those who make misunderstandings about enslavement. There is Samuel Kachera, my co-host, who has decided to wear a wife beater today. He's got a great body. I just don't know if we should be looking at it on the screen right now.
I was going to comment about that.
Yeah, baby.
Okay. Then there is Nurka Encarnacion. She is wearing the afro. She is wearing me out with her research. She is wearing things with pride. I also have Bob from Nassau. Bob is the anonymous conservative. Bob, listen, my brother, all of our viewers are saying we want to see the face behind the name.
Okay, and what?
Will you ever show the viewers what you actually look like?
Perhaps in the future. That'll keep people watching, won't it?
Oh, right on, right on. I like that. Okay, so let's start off here. Samuel, my co-host, didn't get a chance to ask any questions yesterday because, I'm telling y'all, this show's getting better. Okay, so I'm going to direct this question to Sam. Samuel, Fire and Fury, Unhinged, the room where it all happened. I don't even know the host of other titles that are out there or that are in the works. Is this the new normal?
Is what the new normal?
That the White House is up in arms every time someone comes out with a book.
No, the man is coming out with a book, but he wants to expose things that he could have exposed because he's apparently it's all against Donald Trump, against the president. So if these things are relevant, first of all, they're calling it classified. If these things are relevant and they're really secretive and all of that, where was John Bolton when he should have been impaneled for the impeachment hearings?
Right. That's right.
I think we all agree with you there. We can certainly say this he's an opportunist, to say the least. And
Correct.
Yeah, he went for the money.
He sort of had a patriotic duty to say something. But he did say to the Democratic Congress, if you call upon me, I'm willing to testify. He also said this to the Senate, but the Republican Senate chose to.
No.
Go ahead, Cherokee.
Did he refuse?
No. He told the Democrat Congress no.
Okay.
Because they would have to go to court, and what they knew to be true is as soon as you start to go to court, it is going to take months and months and months, and that would have held up the whole impeachment. They looked at court as a delay tactic.
Right. So on one hand, he did say,
yes,
if they call upon me, I will go. But when they offered to call upon him, he said no, he won't go
Right.
because of that reason.
But when he did, it was already in the hands of the Senate, and the Senate, except for 2 Republicans that crossed over, said, no, we don't want to hear anything from him.
Okay. I'm going to direct this next question to Bob from Nassau, the anonymous conservative. He wears a paper bag, but hopefully he's not talking trash. Now, now, Bob, I want to be clear here. Trump has come out on Twitter, his platform of choice, and he has said John Bolton is a liar. John Bolton is a loser. I gave him a chance. He begged me for a job. Interestingly enough, he's worked for Ronald Reagan. John Bolton has worked for Herbert Walker Bush. John Bolton has worked for W. So I don't think that John Bolton is hurting for employment at any point in time. So either he's a liar or the information is classified, which makes it true information. Do you see the conflict here?
Look,
What's your thought on John Bolton?
I think John Bolton's trying to sell books. He's creating a lot of speculative opportunity to sell, hopefully millions of books, so he makes a lot of money. The big thing with Bolton is, and I've been watching him for years. He's a war hawk, and I think there were a lot of policy differences between him and Trump, because Trump has been, especially like in Syria, for example. Donald Trump wants to end a lot of the American conflicts in the Middle East. He ran on that in his campaign, and John Bolton is a war hawk. I mean, if you look at his record, he's always into being pro-military and let's go do this and let's go do that. So they had some policy differences.
True.
As far as the book itself goes, I'm sure there's a lot of information that he was privy to that is classified, and he's got to be very careful there. And my understanding is he's still he's not out of the legal woods on this whole thing.
Okay, so the news that we're getting is that the manuscript was presented to someone in the White House and it was given approval. And then at some point, the White House wanted to give a second approval, and the book was already going to press.
Right.
Now, here's a question. What in the book is classified? Is it classified that he believed Finland was part of Russia? Is it classified that he was unaware that Britain is a nuclear power? Or is it classified that President Xi of China needed to purchase more soybean and wheat in order to support American farmers for his re-election? Because these are the accusations being made. I'm going to move that question to Kirk Adair, please.
Bolton is an opportunist. Bolton is a war hawk. You said that he worked for Hiram Walker Bush. He worked for George Bush. He worked for Reagan. What did all 3 of those guys do? They got us into foreign wars, which funded the military-industrial complex. That's who pays John Bolton. John Bolton is not a free agent. John Bolton is an employee of the military-industrial complex. And yes, he did ask Trump for a job because it was in his interests for his side hustle as being a representative of most of the war industries. Now, the classified information, the thing is that anybody who is an advisor to a president, that information should be at least classified for 6 years. That's what they go in, that's what they sign. Everybody signs one of those non-disclosures. So the third thing is that Bolton refused to testify to the Senate and he refused to testify to the House because his acquisitions would have had to been under oath. Under oath. You can say any damn thing you want to in a book because it's conjecture. But if you're in the House and you're being either House or the Senate and you're being cross-examined, you're cross-examined under oath and you fuck that up and you go to jail. And I need to challenge you on point. Point of challenge.
Point of challenge, Kirkadare. John Bolton has stated on ABC News that the Democrats did not approach the impeachment process properly. Had they went through a court of law, he is saying he would have preferred to testify under oath, so it would have been on the record. He is saying that he did not feel that the investigations went far enough. The Democrats were focused on the Ukraine, and he is mentioning issues with China. He's mentioning issues with North Korea. He is mentioning issues with Russia.
And Turkey.
And all of these things that he explains, if you're making deals with the enemy, that puts you in a position that you owe a debt. And if you owe a debt to the enemy, doesn't that open us up to blackmail? Kirk, please continue.
John Bolton is deep state. John Bolton has been paid off by the military-industrial complex, Marcus. So consequently, his agenda is to make, especially if he couldn't get us into a war with Iran, which is exactly what the banking issues wanted, then he's been left out to dry, and he's been under very serious pressure by the people who wanted him in there, who wanted a war, who wanted more war profits, who wanted an agenda, and he didn't fill that agenda. So he has to backpedal as much as he possibly can to save his ass. That's what he's doing.
I'm going to ask an oddball question here. Nurka Encarnacion, you're a woman that does a lot of research. Where do you do most of your research?
Different places. I do research through books, history. And when I say history, I don't go back into history. I'm talking about treaties and also documentaries. And then the thing with documentaries is that it gives you information that, in order for me to understand or to truly believe it, whether it's true or not, I go into other pages to see what they have to say about it and what they have to prove. So right now, off the top of my head, I just have so many pages that I go to. It's really hard to name them right now.
I'd like to ask you a question. You made it very clear that you often don't leave the house, and you don't watch the news. How do you keep abreast of current events?
I research it. I search it. For example, about the hanging that is going on, is posts that I've seen on Facebook. So in order for me to get a full picture of what it is, because usually these I go into YouTube and Google to see what they have. And in reference to that, what I've seen is that it's only mainstream media who has been speaking about that. So okay. I don't have much to say.
Would you say left-leaning mainstream, right-leaning, or all the above?
There's no such thing as right-leaning mainstream.
CNN.
I'm sorry. Give me 1 second, Bob. Yurka, can continue with the response?
Mainstream, what is being posted in the news. And off of the top of my head right now, there is a very good reporter. His is Red Pill 78. And the thing about him is that he brings people in and it's all investigative reporting. So Red Pill 78 is one of the news that I watch every day, daily. And I'll let you go into so that you could get to your point.
Okay. Bob chimes in and says, there is no left-leaning and there is no right-leaning media. So Bob, that means that you watch CNN with confidence.
No. What I was saying is there's no right-wing mainstream media. All the media is very, very left-leaning, the mainstream media. CNN, okay. MSNBC, NBC, ABC, CBS, PBS, it's all left-leaning.
What is Fox News?
Fox News is
middle of
the road, fair and balanced.
I've tried Fox News that has more commentary. Like, they're not really the ones that jump into my Facebook feed. is more like commentary. They're not really giving the news.
Well,
They're
that's
just
I would
commenting on it.
agree with that. That's true.
I mean, look
That
at
is
Okay.
true.
a journalist like Brett Baer. Are you going to say he's not a true journalist?
No, and I would say the same thing about Mr. Wallace as well. But then you have Tucker Carlson, Laura Ingraham, and Sean Hannity that basically
They're not
throw.
journalists.
Well, no, they're not. They're not. They're not. They're more like comedians. But that's true.
Since we're in the topic of news, I just wanted to bring this out because I have an issue with the news here in the United States. In the Dominican Republic, whenever an incident happens, the reporters are the ones who actually go and do the investigation. Like this hanging that is going on here is very heavy on me, and I feel it deeply because this was happening in the Dominican Republic when they wanted to create a war between Haiti and Dominican Republic, which they did not succeed. And CNN was the one who was really big on creating these full media news. Now, what was happening was that the reporters in the Dominican Republic were going straight to the source. Like if this person got hung, they will go straight to the family and question the family. How did this happen? Who did they know? They will go and question the people who that person knew. And eventually, we got to the true source of the cause of how that person got hung. And over here, it just seems like it's just a big mystery, and this is huge. Like if I had a friend that I heard that was hung, I will be making videos. I will be, trying to find out who did it, how it happened, who she knew. But none of that happens here. It's like.
Well, I'm gonna challenge you, Nyarka. I'm gonna challenge you for a second, just so that you're aware. There was a documentary that was circulating on Facebook, one of the places that you say you get some of your information, and it explained the division between Haiti and the Dominican Republic. And one of the things that it talked about was that one side of the island was very resourceful, while the other side of the island was depleted. As far as resources are concerned. And it mentions how some of these darker Haitian people needed to go to the other side to sell goods. They weren't allowed to go into the markets until after all of the people from the Dominican Republic were able to choose their key stalls. So the back and forth in response to the documentary was very hot, to say the least.
And the documentary also failed to say how those Haitians were being pushed out of their own land because the Clintons were pushing them out of the land. So right now, fast forward, Haitians and Dominicans were very well aware of what was going on, and we're not at war.
Okay. Well, it's being said now, and then I'm going to jump back to the John Bolton subject, but it's being said now that those who are of Haitian descent, living in the Dominican Republic, some of them are being forced out of the country, even though they've been there for 4 or 5 generations. So that's just a point of clarification that I wanted to bring up in regards to that subject.
Okay, so I'm gonna tell you why. The reason is because Haiti has a law that if you are born in Haiti, by blood you are Haitian, and you cannot become a citizen of any other country. So it became that they couldn't be citizens of the Dominican Republic. So it wasn't that they were pushed, it's just that we had to follow the Haitian laws as well. And that was also cleared.
Okay, that's news to me, but it's funny to me because in the United States, we talk about Mexicans, but the last time I checked, Mexico was part of North America. And so essentially North America and South America, it's all the Americas. So essentially we're all American. We just, some of us are considered citizens of the United States and some of us are not, but we are all American. How do you like that? But let's go back for a second.
Yep.
Dems are blamed.
Exactly, it's one continent, America.
Well, that would be two continents.
North and South. Dems are blamed for the line of questioning in regards to the in regards to the impeachment and the investigations. And according to John Bolton, they didn't go deep enough. According to right-leaning media, they were overstepping their bounds. Samuel Kachera, I know you want to get all over that one.
John Bolton, we already addressed it. John Bolton is going to say whatever he's going to say. just because John Bolton is talking now after the fact, right? After the fact, he's like Kirk said before, like he's not under oath.
Yeah.
The man can lie about anything and everything that he wants, right? So for him to say that the questions were not deep enough, so then what is his agenda? Not deep enough for what?
Now, you know, it's funny because we're bashing John Bolton right now, but then at a certain point we were bashing Omarosa Manigault, and we were calling her a dog. You know, we didn't call her horse face or, blood coming out of her, whatever, but we did call her a dog. And if she's a female dog, we're essentially calling her a bitch. And then you have Fire and Fury. You know, Samuel, these books keep coming out and they keep saying the same thing, that there's turmoil, there's disarray, that your president is not listening to his advisors.
My president.
Why does everyone keep leaving this White House with the same story? And the same books are still bestseller after bestseller after bestseller. As an entrepreneur, chaos doesn't work. It just doesn't work.
Well, who's
He's a business
chaos?
person.
Who's creating chaos? Okay. So everybody doesn't like him personally.
Well, Trump has admitted that he likes chaos.
No problem. Let the man like chaos. Some people do. Some people thrive under pressure.
But is this a way to run the country in chaos?
But who is causing the chaos? It cannot be him. He's the one receiving. He's at the end of it. He's receiving the chaos.
Exactly.
He's at the end of the chaos.
He's
Okay.
not creating the chaos. He's
He
receiving
said
the chaos.
throwing Molotov cocktails and bricks.
I'm sorry, Bob. Go ahead.
I said Trump's not throwing Molotov cocktails or bricks, that's for sure.
Okay, but we're not discussing rioting
No.
right now. What we're
That's part of the
discussing
chaos,
is
the riots of the chaos.
okay, but the riots are a response of a lack of leadership somewhere.
Mhm.
Then
The
what
riots
should
are a
be?
response of a lack of acknowledgement. The riots are a response when some people have and other people do not. Now, Trump has been in office for quite some time. He is appeasing the evangelical right, and now you have conservatives, and you're a conservative, and you know, Bob, John Bolton is a conservative.
Mhm.
So you have Christian conservatives coming out against your president. You have John Bolton, who's worked for 3 Republican presidents. Now Trump is the supposed 4th. He's coming out against Trump. At a certain time, we can't keep saying the same narrative that the person is unhappy, that they're a dog, that he was giving them a chance, that they're just angry, they're bitter. We can't keep using the same narrative. Bob, this is a conservative saying detailed information that's very similar to Omarosa. Now, if there's ever a woman who was a female Trump and who's ever a person who was a black Trump, it's her. I think that she played him at his own game, because for her to be fired 5 times from his show and to still get hired in his White House, what does that say about him? Bob, you've got this one. Go ahead.
I
Go ahead.
don't think you can make a correlation between being on a TV program and working for him in the White House. They're apples and oranges.
Why? That's how he runs the country, like it's a TV show.
He's
What the hell are you talking about?
dog. Come on.
He runs the whole administration like it's The Apprentice. What the hell are you talking about? He fires people on Twitter.
Yeah.
He tries to do big. He turns a coronavirus task force into his own press conferences. What are you talking about? He's a media whore. There's not a camera he doesn't like. What are you talking about?
Don't like him.
Exactly.
Ooh.
Crickets.
Oh, well,
Huh?
that's okay.
Crickets.
Does anybody have a response to my question in regards to the continuous level of damning accusations
Yeah.
in books that are coming from people that have worked in this White House that are saying the same thing?
Yeah.
Samuel, I'm looking at you guys on the right. what is the explanation for why all of these people, and now there are people from the right that are saying he has a problem?
Well, what's happening is he ran his platform on
A little bit louder,
emptying
Nurka. I'm
the
so
swamp.
sorry, my dear.
He ran a platform on emptying the swamp. One of the things that caught my attention when he was debating with Hillary Clinton was when he said that he will put her in jail. And the reason is because I am aware of all the damage that the Clintons have done to Haiti, and they also tried to do to the Dominican Republic. So I was really happy when he said that. I was like, okay, I need to listen to this a little bit deeper, because I was not following politics.
I got two people speaking. Go ahead, Nurka. Please continue.
I do not vote. So to answer your question, the reason why he's getting attacked on every level is because the swamp is huge. Even the vice president was not at the beginning one of his idols. However, how they became a team, I do not understand, because even the vice president was friends with the Clintons.
What is the swamp?
You know,
what is the swamp?
You know,
what does that mean?
Can I answer
Okay,
that?
then you need to then you need to research that. You need to
No.
I'm asking for your definition of it.
We are not a show that's going to tell
you need to
One
research
second.
what is the deep
One
state.
second,
The deep,
Nurka.
Mhm.
Nurka, I'm going to push back on you. When we come on this program, we're not going to tell someone to research. We're going to come up with the facts. And the reason why the socialist is not back on this program is because he said, go to my website, go to my website. If we come on this program, and if a question is asked and you don't have the answer to the question, that requires a point of clarification, or requires being quiet and thinking before you reply. And I think
Okay, then I can answer. I can answer that. The deep state is actually everybody who's involved in Agenda 21.
I didn't say the deep state. I said the swamp. You said he was going to drain the swamp.
The swamp is the deep state. Same thing.
Okay. Okay.
It's the same
Now,
thing.
Now, anonymous conservative, I know you wanted to add something right quick.
Yes, I did. You know, Trump ran as an outsider, okay? And the problem is, and this is also part of the problem with Bolton and company and some of the other people in there, a lot of Republicans don't like Donald Trump. It's not just the Democrats, it's also a lot of the Republicans. And I'm going to refer back to all these deep state, you know, the Democrats and Republicans, they're all in on politics, career politicians, milking the system, creating opportunities for them to create wealth for themselves and their families.
That's right.
So much
There's no
corruption
difference
in our
between the
government.
parties, really.
There's a ton of corruption within our government, and Trump ran on being the outsider. That's why he's got a lot of enemies, political enemies.
Okay.
So you're talking about corruption. How many officials in his own party have been accused of corruption or had to actually resign because they were misusing their resources?
Because of the same reason that he just said.
You know something, guys, I have to tell you,
Because
as an entrepreneur, I cannot blame a staff member if something is not delivered. Because at a certain point in time, I have to take responsibility as an executive to say, did I provide them with the tools needed to carry out the assignment? Did I put them in the position that was best suited to their talents? Or did I simply make a poor judgment call when I should have did more vetting?
There you go.
That's an entrepreneur. Any entrepreneur of any organization or of any entity will tell you the vetting process is crucial. The question that we really have here is, why is the vetting not taking place? Samuel, I want you to take that question.
First of all, let's be clear. You keep asking me because you're waiting for me to slip up on something with Trump. So
you're making a lot of assumptions, my brother. And guess what?
Got your questions?
I mean, even Brian can see it, so he's agreeing with me. So I don't think I'm really assuming. Just
But
putting that out there, bro.
Is there something unjustified I've asked?
Just putting that out there, bro. You can ask.
Should I softball?
Anyway, I think the vetting is being done, but you can still have liars on an application. You can still have background checks that don't go according to plan. You can always have something. And you can also have proper vetting being done where everything checked out, everything was good, A-OK, and then that person's personal beliefs got in the way later on when they
sort of like Jared Kushner.
Excuse me?
Sort of like Jared Kushner, talking about the vetting process.
Could be. There is no perfection. You've had Obama's administration. I wasn't here, but I heard there was a high turnover rate.
Yeah, no. We ain't brother.
It wasn't Irish family though.
My brother, we ain't seen nothing like this. My man, if we were standing at Grand Central Station, this would be like all of the trains pulling into the station within 5 minutes of each other and letting off a rush hour crowd. And there are so many people going by you that you can't even walk toward the train.
You know, the best part is that even though he's had a high turnover rate, he's still doing better than most presidents have done in the past.
So you're acknowledging that he's had a high turnover rate.
Excuse me?
You're acknowledging that he's had a high turnover rate.
I'm acknowledging that, absolutely. Did he not?
Okay.
Of course he did.
So you would say, so Trump has compared himself to Lincoln. Lincoln, who was president during the Emancipation Proclamation.
Okay.
Trump has compared himself to George Washington, the founding father. Trump has compared himself to several other people. So let's describe what he's done that puts him in that classification.
He's made the country. He's improved the country remarkably.
Okay. I'm asking you for bullet points.
Bullet points.
Yes, sir.
What bullet points would you like? The fact that the economy has risen up so high, that the economy has improved.
I'm not working right now. Are you?
Yeah, but you can't blame the president for that.
Okay, Samuel, I'm going to stop you for a second because I think you may need some time to process. Cherokee, go ahead.
No.
Okay.
No, wait a minute. Don't shut me down. No.
I'm not shutting you down. You just don't have an answer.
Because, wait a minute. You're not working because on one hand, you always say, you and everybody else, pretty much everybody else on the panel, you always say, oh, so we shouldn't, are we rushing to bring the economy back to work or are people's lives more in jeopardy, more worth it than the working class? Should we be working in this Corona period, or should we be relaxing and letting shit take place and people getting healthy?
Should we even be dealing with a coronavirus?
Wait.
Wow, this is aggressive.
Wait. You are the one that did that shit. You said it. Now you go, oh, I'm not working.
Sam.
Sam. So now you're not working. So now you want to say, oh, and you want to blame Trump for that. So wait a minute, which side?
Well, actually, let me give you a point of clarification. I am working, but I'm working for myself. Okay, let me clarify. Okay, there's no silence. I am working, but I'm working for myself, number one. Number two, because I work for myself as an entrepreneur, and as you know, 3 months before the health disaster, I was actually working on another project, producing a program for someone else, in which I brought you into that project. In addition to that, I had 3 or 4 people approach me about different projects, but suddenly I can't leave my house after 8 p.m. because the economy is doing quite well. I can't go to my neighbor's house and give them a hug because the president is handling things absolutely well.
Your governor.
Numbers are down here, buddy. Numbers are down. Numbers are down.
Name your governor.
The governor and his brother on CNN.
Okay.
Como too.
DeSantis, Florida, numbers are up. Texas, numbers are up. Arizona, numbers are up. Now, you told me that there were 17 other states, Samuel.
What is your
point? Would you name those 17? I'm sorry. Would you name the 17?
Your governor. Blame your governor.
You asked me my point. Would you like me to continue?
Your point had,
okay.
You went way off topic.
No, I did not. So you mentioned that there are 20 states in our last conversation. where the numbers have also went up when we were discussing COVID on Monday's program. Would you name the other 17 states where the numbers have went up?
No, I won't.
You cannot.
No, I can't.
Okay. Probably because it doesn't exist.
Oh,
But I'll leave that alone. Could you name 3 states since I named 3?
what is your point?
That was
What
a
is your
question.
point?
Can you name 3? Are
What
you
is
able to
what
name
is
3
your
states
point?
where COVID-19 has went up?
What is your
Still,
point?
it's still,
We were
still,
talking
still
about
going up.
you, employment.
You just blame
said you had no
Cuomo
employment.
and the numbers are down.
You
You just
said
blame
you
a
had no-
Democratic state and the numbers are down.
Marquis, you said you had no employment. Now you say you have employment. Now you want me
No,
to
no,
name
no, no.
states.
You see, when you can't leave your house, you're restricted. Okay?
What's that got to do with anything?
And
What's that?
well,
do
what
with
it has to do with is making decisions in March when you have a problem in January might be a little bit behind schedule.
We were talking.
Brian Parker,
about,
do you agree or disagree with what I'm saying?
You were asking about Trump comparing to Lincoln and to Washington. That's how
I
it
did.
started, Mark. Right.
Yes, but you
got
said the economy is better. The economy is not better.
States. You got
He's
into me
desperate.
naming states.
Right,
Yeah?
but he's desperate. He's desperate.
Who's desperate?
Right?
Who's
Right.
desperate?
Trump is desperate right now
For what?
to get reelected.
No, he's
Hold on,
not.
hold on.
Look,
So
look at
Biden-
the rally he had yesterday.
We had a rally on Saturday where 1 million people requested to go, but the stadium can only hold 20,000 plus whatever they put outside. He's got 1 million people. Tulsa, Oklahoma only has capacity for 300,000 people residing there.
Okay, so let's
Not all of them wanna go.
Let's shift. Let's shift.
Yeah, let's shift.
Cherokee-
Let's shift.
Cherokee,
Let's shift.
have you ever heard of Greenwood, Tulsa, Oklahoma?
That's where Black Wall Street was, right?
Okay.
That's Black Wall Street.
Kirkadere, have you ever heard of Juneteenth?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I don't understand why, Kirk, you've heard of Juneteenth because Donald Trump made it famous.
I'm sorry.
Well,
Look at
Trump didn't make it famous.
I never heard of Juneteenth.
Wow. Well, you're not from here, and that's not an insult. It's not.
Right.
It's not.
So
So,
you know,
so if you all heard of Juneteenth, why didn't anybody make it be known? I mean, that's big from what
We have known about it in the
we
black
know
community.
about it. People
White
It
folks
is
just
now
don't
a
pay-
national
white folks just
holiday in
don't
New
pay
York
us no
State.
attention, Erica.
I think it should be a national holiday.
It will be.
Yeah.
okay.
I
Erica,
think so.
I think it always should have been.
After
a
what
national holiday.
what I've learned this week, yeah, I think it should.
I mean,
I never
Erica,
heard of
Erica,
June
that's like saying nobody's ever heard of Lift Every Voice and Sing. Every black person in the world knows that song, but just
Okay.
because the white folks never acknowledged it doesn't mean it doesn't exist. Those
Bob
are
the
slave
Anonymous
songs that we used to
Conservative,
sing.
Bob the Anonymous Conservative, you're in Long Island. Give me a viewpoint of what you're hearing.
Well, to be honest, I never heard of Juneteenth until just recently. My question is, I don't recall Barack Obama even making any celebration speech about Juneteenth.
Yeah,
Maybe
yes,
I'm wrong, but
you
I
are.
don't recall.
Yeah, you
Yes,
just
yes,
aren't listening because it's not known to you. You didn't hear.
correct.
What do you mean?
You didn't hear.
He's known to me. He's our president.
I'm not talking about he's not known. Juneteenth, when he made
Correct.
the speech, you were not listening because you had no frame of reference.
I'm
Because
gonna
you're not taught
research that.
true history in school. American history is a lie.
Did you know
Most of
about
it. It
Did you know
leaves
about
out a
Black
lot.
Wall Street, Bobby?
I've heard
That
about
I
Black
knew
Wall
about.
Street.
Did you know what happened?
No, specifically no.
Okay, you know why? Because they don't teach it in school.
And they should.
And this is a problem.
Correct, but it doesn't mean that nobody else knew about it. We had to get taught about it from other places than school.
So I'm going to do a little bit of a wrap up here because I know we're down to about 4 to 5 minutes. Samuel, would you like to make a quick comment before I do wrap up?
Yeah, let me just say thank you to everybody listening. Marquis and I get very passionate.
I
Nothing
know.
personal. Nothing personal. We still
I
got
love
love.
the aggressiveness.
We still got love. I just don't like being cut off. That's all. But everything's good.
Nobody likes to be cut off.
Right. And as the host of the show, you know, there are certain times I have to cut in there because I get talked over. Let me just say to our listeners and our viewers that everyone knows what July 4th is. Everyone knows what the American flag is. To African Americans, the American flag is not necessarily their flag. So some of them have their own version of the American flag with the colors red, black, and green. Red is for the bloodshed, black is for the color of the skin, and green is for prosperity. July 4th represents independence in the United States.
Not for Black people.
For African American, and if I may continue, for African Americans, July 4th doesn't represent independence for them because not all of them were free. As a matter of fact, most of them were not. And therefore, Juneteenth, a holiday which falls onto June 19th, the last state to allow enslaved Africans to be freed was Texas. That happened on June 19th. Unfortunately, I don't have the year in front of me, but hence the case, Juneteenth. 1865, I thank you, Kirkadere. I want to thank you all for tuning in to such a passionate subject. I want to thank my contributors today. We go at it, but you know, we're a family. And one of the things that's important to us on Verbal Assault live stream is that we're able to have a discussion. It's easy to tell someone to look for the facts, but if you can't come forward with the facts, then maybe you need to question your viewpoint or your understanding. I'm Marquis Devereaux. We look forward to having you on Thursday's show where we discuss Atlanta, Georgia. Is Atlanta the new Minneapolis? Thank you for tuning in to Verbal Assault live stream. Bye-bye.